got the permission, but I have to do it again. Okay. So my overwhelmed part is cut. It's good.
Cool. So the 10 minutes went in. No, it wasn't 10 minutes, but like overwhelming. What is that? Why? Da-da-da. No, but if you want to repeat any of the things,
No, it's fine. It's fine.
maybe they can be repeated through the questions. I
Yeah.
actually had a question which was well, several. One was what would be the live events with the platform? Because yeah, for sure, online things are also great reasons to meet up live.
Yeah,
Although
yeah,
it sounds
exactly.
contradictory. No, but it is, because then you're also sharing how to use it in a different way or more like direct way. Then I don't know how much people are interested in how else is someone using something. And then the other question I wanted to ask was like, if you imagine that the platform is already done, what do you, yeah, for sure there will be paths that will open up that you can't think of now. But there are also ones that you may be anticipating already. Do you know what those are or what you think it might bring you or yeah?
That's something like I just had a conversation with my supervisor. Like, so, well, his idea is like, I have to keep it like open so that it can like I can start already like building prototypes, but it should be like open to like changes, which totally makes sense. It's completely on point. But then I had like conflicting ideas. Like one is like just to keep it open that I can modify if I need to, add, I don't know, images or videos, or that's like concrete idea, but example, but something that I can adapt to whatever comes out from the interviews to, influence the prototype. That's one thing. But then I had another idea, like what if I make like super like narrow down, like very concrete, like specific like platform or tool like just does this one particular thing. I don't know if it's clear, but because when I look at the interviews, I'm processing them, and I think there are like different phases of creation, and I think my research proposal came from like kind of I remember you said this totalizing app, and I had the idea that like it shouldn't be a totalizing app to go from like note taking or like replacing notebook. I didn't have this idea of like replacing notebook, for example. But then like if I look at the proposal, I wrote something like I want to have a platform where people can take notes, like journal or like take like journal and share it with others. And that's like actually like a really broad spectrum of like process. So basically I was like unconsciously already like assuming that, this platform will like be there all the time during their process, from when they're in the studio to, I don't know, walking on the street and coming up with ideas and like put notes, or if they need some specific idea, they can come back to this platform and they can publish on this platform, which is actually like really, it is actually like totalizing in a way that I was not coming from the idea of like replacing something, but it's actually, I was thinking like from 0 to, I don't know, 1 or 0 to 10, like during the whole process this platform is there. But I'm doubting like this will be the case, because it might come and go, but comes and goes. But it I should like look into like more like micro like steps of the process to think about what exactly they need. For example, like someone wants to publish, well, someone already publishing a magazine that I shared, I think shared the link. And is it a platform that is like more focused on like composing like something like a publication, or is it more like Twitter kind of thing that is more messy and but it's like more like fresh ideas that like brain dump. And that's like completely, like totally like different avenues, right? So that's something I started thinking like I have to narrow down, like not instead of thinking about something that is flexible and the platform that can go into any direction.
Yep. But I mean, it also depends. I mean, it sounds like if you decide for something specific, then you will anyway be corrected by users' desires, right? In a
Yeah.
way.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if I say like, like making a like really specific niche thing, then I would think about, just like ditching the whole like whole prototype if this doesn't work. But my idea is, like what if I make like a bunch of them and
Mhm.
see
Mhm.
like, hit or miss, but something might hit.
Yeah. Well, uh, yeah, or also I think come to think of it, like I think uh, not that I'm aware how that would be possible to do, but if I imagine that note taking is not always having um, a notebook book next to you because it's too big and too heavy and you need to take a pen out. I'm now speaking literally, right? But if I'm doing anything online on the phone or on the computer, then the note taking could be just like a very specific way of annotating and then gathering that, right? So that I don't have to be busy with opening an app up, but a function of somehow that is an add-on that is already gathering all that, and it will then end up in my app that is note taking. I don't know if that makes sense, right? So imagine that I go through a physical book. I'm going to explain it on a physical book, and I put in color post-its, and then somehow miraculously there's another notebook, and all of those pages that I've just marked end up there, but organized the way I want them in a way. So it's not just bookmarks, because bookmarks is essentially also note taking, right?
Hmm. You mean
Some
like,
sort.
but okay, like it's so you end up in
Let
a
me just
notebook,
explain.
like the content itself, or actually like a reference to the book.
No, actually the content, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's yeah, it would also be the same, just like screenshots end up in your photos. Maybe a particular app that is taking screenshots with while making the notes, yeah, ends up in an app. But that just comes to my mind by you saying, because it seems like you're dealing with different publishing formats, right?
Hmm.
And it's also a question, what is either very intuitive or counterintuitive, but therefore interesting for the medium of dance. What can it capture? Is it a picture? Is it hashtag? Is it the text, or like what else, right? And I find that interesting. But I also wanted to say, um, now that you just reminded me, um, but I'm going a bit back. I'm curious what, because you said note taking and sharing notes. And I wonder what else could be the collectivizing moment.
Hmm. I
It's
see.
yeah, sharing, and also, mm, so if I'm doing something alone in an environment and I'm reminded that I can make it collective by clicking a button share or something, or also import, that would be the same. But what could be other, whether it's done through icons or questions that pop up or something that reminds me how else I could explore what else can be done collectively, right? So is there also group projects that can be done? Are there like notes on notes? I don't know. Like, yeah, how else is basically content dealt with within the dance community, I guess,
Hmm. I
depending
see.
what content is considered, which I don't think is the same as material because we're talking about taking notes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, maybe that's just a side note. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if it's related, but like what I found interesting is like, well, first thing, like I was quite optimistic that, okay, people take notes, like what if they can share? But I think most of them, I think I shared with you already, but people don't really want to share their notes because like, I think there are two reasons. One is that it's just not legible. Um, if it's like 100 notes or even like typed, if it's like random words. Um, the second thing, people might misinterpret what you write. So, like for your notes, like you can't be really responsible if you like publish it as it is. So there are like two main reasons people don't want to share notes so far, I think. But then there's another thing that's like notes from rehearsals, for example, like in a studio, and they're just like taking notes on paper. There's other kind of information. For example, there's one dance maker. She's working with accessibility, and what she's interested is to look into like different practices, like how people are dealing with accessibility. For example, designing the costume that blind people can touch. For example, like how other dance makers are approaching this problem or question. And she has like a compiled like links that like links to artists who's working with accessibility or shows or um, podcasts, this kind of resource that she compiled, and that's something. So that's something she wants to like share with others, or if others can add to this list, then that's great. And that's like a kind of this very concrete idea that would probably work well with my initial idea of this remixing. So we have like collective, or it can be like more like a collective knowledge or like a Wikipedia kind of thing that people can add whatever link that thing they think related, which is like really like similar to GitHub. I don't know if you know this awesome links that people have. People make this kind of list for so graphics engine or like specific topics. They put a lot of links. So that's like dance version of like awesome list could be interesting. Although I don't know how many people are interested in this topic so far. Like out of 20 people I interviewed, she's the only one who said this. Yeah, so that's like a concrete kind of note or list that would be interesting to share.
I'm not sure if this would be interesting, but because yeah, what you said that this choreographer would be interested in, I think there was a sort of for sure there's a interest. I will speak now for both of us because I assume that Valerie is on the same page, but that this was kind of the point of take more care as well, not just feedback, but that because a lot is shared, also references. Of course, it's shared between the people that join, but that wider community could have access to that. And I don't know if that's like under certain topics, but at certain point, and I haven't even spoken to her about that yet, but I thought it would be interesting also to introduce like different exercises in Take More Care, where people reveal that process of, because what you're talking about, essentially what I think note taking also is within the dance process, dance making process is, and then me seeing their notes is basically brain picking, right? Because it's half digested thoughts, some are finished, and I might, of course, build upon those ideas. Then I wanted to say, misinterpreting them is not always bad. It's like, because they don't necessarily, they're not aimed at a particular finished idea if the finished idea is not there. It's, I think, very useful to see how in visual arts sketches are treated, right? And then you see the final work. Or what the worth of it is, because it's basically note taking, but it's already a draft. So what's the difference between a note taking and a draft? Because if that's literature, it's already worth something. It's like first manuscript or something. If it's visual as well, in dance, it's really hard, I guess, to talk about that, or the writings of a dance artist. I don't know how to evaluate that. I, for instance, find right now in Paris there's an exhibition of Vera Molnar, the Hungarian artist, yeah, and you can see her notebooks.
Ah, yeah, did you mention like
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like a not draft but not draft kind of thing you
Yeah,
said?
I even took pictures of that. I was more interested in that than the final work, but you can really see just the sketch of the thing there and like notes around it, how it's going to be done and so on. Uh, but it's basically replicated. I mean, then the actual version is done in the material that she has envisioned, and um I don't know, it's a bigger scale, or, but it's not another format. It's not like, so the process is quite direct. It's more like a memory aid, or like developing, sketching out the idea. And yeah, I think that's a missing step, just purely because of the material you're working with the body, right?
Yeah, I have like still like small sample size, so I can't generalize. But the trend I'm seeing now is visual artists, they tend to take less notes,
Mm,
and because they're more like hands-on and like see what happens with the medium. And
mm,
even because the people I talked with, they are visual artists and performing artists, or coming from visual art. But the approach is very different. That for example, they just face the camera and see what comes out. It's more like I see it like atelier, like itself, with their body or stage. So it might be like related. Like she was, I don't know. But yeah, I haven't seen Veramona's notes, so I don't know. I can't really
yeah.
relate it, but it felt like like dancers and visual artists, like in general, they have like different approaches to notes. Yeah.
Mm. But I think maybe an important issue there is also how distanced you are from your, I'm still going to call it material, or who is the interpreter, right? If you yourself are making dance and you are the dancer, then that's different than if you're working as a choreographer with dancers and you actually rarely do the movement. So the distance to the object of your creation, I guess. Unless the object of creation is the process itself. That's another complicated thing.
Okay.
um, but yeah, I know. Sorry, I will stop here. But I wanted to say, that I have something else to add. We went a bit off. I mean, from what I wanted to say. So, um,
Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. So yeah, the links. Yeah, the kind of responsibility of the nodes. I think the
hmm,
concern I had in the interview was more like, you might get, accused from what you shared from the node, because it might imply something, like people can misinterpret in a wrong way, so that it can
hmm,
be, politically incorrect or something. Then you don't want to be responsible for your notes that are shared and misinterpreted. And I think that's the rationale about, you don't want to share the notes.
yeah.
It might work if it's anonymous, though. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But I wanted to ask you this, and maybe that's like a bit stupidly going to the very beginning. I wonder what is, I know you've told me before, but maybe that has changed. What is your motivation to do that? What's the motivation to basically document dance in this way? Because it's a very specific way to use technology that you're using. Is there a motivation of like, there could be so much more benefit from it? Or like, is there also, do you have a motivation of like another, I don't know, developing another heuristic for how to, grasp the ungraspable in dance, which starts with note taking or observing, basically, because what I observe, but I don't want to remember, I want to put it into my notes, right? So what's the ambition there to basically qualify what goes into a note of a sensation, of a association, image, and so on? Yeah.
I see. Well, actually, like to me, I came from the idea of like sharing. Like, why can't we share dance online? Like not, yeah, like dance, but like process of dance or not, well, knowledge of dance. That's like the starting point. And I think naively I associated that with notes because that's something that I would say like artifact from the creation, and how like I thought like if I could connect this artifact or the notes to sharing, then it might kind of solve the issue of people not people are hesitant to share their practice online.
Mm.
That's
And
like, yeah.
no, sorry. And have you ever asked someone in the interview or tried to answer it yourself? Why so far? Why can't we share it online? If people would take it seriously and say, we can't share it online because, right? That
Right. Was it you? I forgot who answered, but it's hard to see who's taking the idea if it's online. Like if it's a workshop in a physical, like in real life, then you
yeah,
see that, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's something I thought interesting. Um, but this specific question, I don't know if someone else, if I asked it with someone else. I need to think. But I see that I didn't probably I didn't ask this question directly, but some people, for example, have like Facebook group to share what they're doing. Then I started to question like do they feel like safe to ask questions or share knowledge in a specific group, or it can be on their Facebook feed. But I guess that's like the same idea that you kind of control who's watching and who's not, who cannot see.
It's consuming, yeah.
Yeah, which is actually there are different ways to probably access, but um, and what is, yeah, like how can we open this up to bigger group? Because if people are happy with Facebook, then there is nothing I can propose because they should just use Facebook. But I guess the problem with the Facebook is, besides the problem of Facebook itself, I think that that it's still in a closed bubble. So if they share their knowledge with their friends, that's great, but it won't reach out to other groups who might have similar interests, right?
Mm. Yeah, I have another, sorry, today I just have questions. One
That's great.
one is because I'm this one is not really to answer because I think it's just like, yeah, it's a tricky one to say that even. But yeah, I think the first question of why can't we share dance online, in a way, well, it is shared the way we just described it. So I guess there are other conditions you would like it to be fulfilled in how to share it. So it's specific type of sharing you imagine, or in a specific phase. And then it's also a question, what do you consider, how does dance translate as a visual, as a dynamic, as a, what kind of a object, right? Like, is it enough to just convey it, or does video already do it? Although not necessarily the video would be the dynamic thing. And then I had one more thing to think about, which is and that would be maybe interesting to see people who have changed careers, maybe that went from dancing to something else, and if they have then experienced this open source, or even if they went more into any kind of like coding or anything like that. So I think people who end up in that change and end up in open source communities as well are there because, well, first of all, you're learning, and that's how you can learn without institutions, right? Second of all, if you get really good at it, it means you are able to answer very different demands. And that's usually not dance makers, if I compare the two groups, right? That's dancers. Like if in the dance making world you're really good at technique, you're probably going to be the interpreter. And then some interpreter, like either dance in a company, dance for someone, and so forth, because you have become so versatile. Unless it's some rare solo artists that then also do their own dance. But I think it goes kind of exactly against at the heart of what is the, not necessarily virtuosity or skill, but in a way, what that package is. So I think if you're working in any kind of coding open source community, it means you're able to do a lot, and then you make a niche of like, but I like this and this is useful, so you satisfy other needs you have based on the fact that you can do many different things. And then as a dance artist, you necessarily cannot do many different things. You can only do one, and that's a struggle, actually, very often. Find that one that only you can do, right?
I mean,
Unless you're talking about,
even if they,
more commercial settings, where it's like the more how to say, the more you can respond to some kind of commission, the better. And then even then it's not about unique visions, but bigger visions of other people that you can bring together because you simply have project management skills, let's say, and bringing people. Yeah.
yeah, it becomes more like an entrepreneur kind of
Yeah.
role, I guess. And I guess that's like, yeah, that's what I wanted to interrupt. But yeah, people don't have time. That's the big issue, that even if they have skills to, like for design or to publish, to write, I mean, a lot of people have like good writing skills, but they just don't have time to do it. And that's really critical.
Yeah.
So if I make a platform, then it shouldn't take time from people. That's like a,
Mm.
yeah, like that's a big like design criteria, I would say. Like maybe there can be like an initial, like learning step, but on their daily basis, it shouldn't take up time from people so that they can just, keep using it. Otherwise, it will fail for sure. Um, yeah,
Mhm.
especially when I'm targeting like freelance, like independent dancers, dance makers. That's often the case, I think, unless they have, they're like really like good time in their career that they can hire a project manager, PR, a person to um, do, their Instagram and stuff. I haven't interviewed anyone like that, but I'm a bit biased because the last person who I interviewed was mentioning her collaborator who's quite big in contemporary dance. We can, hire person to manage her Instagram account. So I went to her Instagram page, and it is very nicely done.
Well managed. Yeah. um Yeah, I mean, now not, I'm sorry, I'm also just getting more ideas, and I thought, yeah, you said you're targeting freelance dancers, right? But then
Yeah,
it's, yeah, I think an interesting question, because last time we spoke, it was a tiny bit going towards pedagogy. It's like, yeah, where do the dancers learn how to compose or create? And I think if it's not concretely from visiting artists at schools that integrate them. I mean, some schools have basically pedagogy based on invited artists who then you get to do a project with them. You dance as a whatever, a student, so they get free labor, you get knowledge, and that's how you do it. I'm not sure. I would be curious if who has like actual methodology based classes, in the sense that this is also discussed as a kind of a meta thing, and then it's like even more as an informed choice of how someone would like to work. That it's not just given because you like certain aesthetics and then you will just copy someone's method, right? But that's basically a lot of freelance artists, I think, also end up doing, which is, or that's how you start also learning. You like someone's work and you deduce how that must have been created. So you may not necessarily know until you have done, let's say, a lot of different workshops and you've been in touch with many people to understand where they get their material from, right? But this deducing from, I have once done really also, it was very nice exercise with, I think her name is Petra Shabish, dramaturg, I guess, based in Berlin. And also maybe that's an interesting published books or series of books. Everybody's is the title.
Okay.
Maybe that's even still the website. Everybody's Toolbox. I think it's called. Let me check. Everybody's Toolbox. I don't know if you found something.
Everybody's toolbox.net, but I don't know if it's not alive anymore.
Oh, too bad. But there are books, actual physical books.
Okay.
And then for there's one on Meta Ingvardson's webpage, various authors, everybody's performance scores. So they have shared their scores, right?
Okay.
I don't know if you have this one. I will put it
The
in the chat.
PDF. Yeah, I found it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her very simple but super effective exercise was she showed us a video of a performance and she said, "How do you think this was created?" And then we just fantasized about the method, which was, um, imagining all parts, even like why would someone put this into a studio, then what probably someone has observed, and then you can also imagine what kind of extensive on or not note taking led to that or was necessary or not. Anyway, it's just as a simple exercise, and I thought because this has a lot to do with how we learn something, and therefore with that pedagogy you either learn to take notes or you learn what the process is or what the notes should actually even do, right? And a final remark, I think that also the important factor is, yeah, just in what proximity is the dance education with other fields, or how much of reading or writing is happening within the educational program of dance itself, because then text or writing will not be foreign to a part of the working process, right? And I think those dance programs will be much more likely to go towards social media.
Mm.
Students are already not encouraged to work with text, for instance, right? But those are now details much more going into some kind of like reflection on pedagogical trends in Europe.
Yeah, writing. Yeah. What we had a talk we talked about like if younger people are like doing more like video based stuff or like, well, I'm saying like TikTok.
Yeah.
Or and then I don't know if I have like dancers in their 20s. I think I talked with two of them. But one is a bit outlier, let's say. One and the other one, they do take notes. But that was really like particular example because she can't, afford a lot of studio space. So it makes sense for her to, use a notebook in the studio and put it in the computer later so that she doesn't have to, work on the computer when she's in the studio because time
Yeah.
is precious. But the interesting thing is like everything ends up on the computer, like whatever notes, sticky notes, everything. She takes photo of them and put it in the computer on the Freeform app on Mac, which I haven't used it, but it's like a default
I know
app,
it.
right? Yeah. Um, so that was quite interesting, but then does she write? I don't know. Quite a lot of people, not just her, but quite a lot of people use Note app, like a default Note app on
Mm.
iPhone. And that's like a kind of, I see it's like a cross-generational thing, like especially people, I don't know if it's a trend, but especially people who write a lot, they also use like a digital Note app to like start drafting on the
Mm.
go, I
Mhm.
think. Yeah, yeah. Maybe maybe that's a interesting observation. Like people who's taking notes on paper, there's like a blockage from going there to like typing on the computer. I don't know. I'm generalizing.
Mm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Anyways,
Yep.
but this kind of thing is like not something that like in pedagogy, like you talked about like at APAS you like had this like note taking
Yeah.
um I
Yeah.
don't know what's it called, workshop or like seminar or a working group. I don't know what.
Basically, we spent one block, which is, we could call it a semester, but the timing is not quite the same. We spent on note taking and different formats, and basically also sort of the differences of a descriptive or prescriptive notes, right? Am I making a script or a description? And also either can be used in
Mm,
either. I still have to find that. So maybe if we make another like day, when would be nice to know ahead, so I prepare it and I will find that for sure. Because late I'm rearranging my notes, so I will find them. Um, yeah, and uh there was what's his name? Nicolas Galeazzi, is it? I would have to recheck the name. I'm always bad with his last name, but basically one of the mentors of APAS. He proposed an exercise that we then tried on, and he tried it in some group meeting somewhere in Switzerland, if I remember correctly, and that was really interesting. So there were basically there were more people than notebooks, but if I remember correctly, there were discussions going on, and they needed to keep notes. And instead of everyone sticking to their own notes, there were 3 notebooks circulating around. So they would be always 3 people taking notes, and the rest not in that time frame. And then they would move counter or clockwise, doesn't matter. So you just keep making notes into the same notebook, basically. So you're actually
mm,
making shared notes, um, also to lose the sense of authorship, right? Which I thought
mm,
interesting, because then you immediately get to also see how someone else is doing it, and that might affect, or it doesn't, your own focus or your own filter, which you decide to. Basically, our block of note taking was mostly on apart from those distinctions, and let's say the use of or function of logging, also as a kind of that it has a reproductive function. You take notes to reproduce something, right? In pedagogy, quite concretely, right? To pass on the knowledge or to keep it or to form it. Or sometimes it's for accountability as well, or as in the case you've already mentioned, authorship, right? But yeah, mostly it was like also quite a, let's say, literary or artistic interest in how to change filters in what you're focusing on, how that changes your, well, perception and then language, or whichever you decide to change first, and so on. And we were playing a lot with that. But I have notes on those note-taking sessions.
Meta notes.
Also, because I don't know if you're interested in that, but I can imagine that, either part of the platform or a live event can be these different exercises, which is basically you share different modalities of usage, right? I'm doing it like that. It's basically exchanging models, which I think people are I would assume they're more prone to sharing how to use something than exactly what. So it's like, I can tell you how I'm making notes and give you examples, but I'm not going to give you my notes, right?
I
Basically,
see.
the principle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many things I thought about and it's like slipped off. But one remark about this, like kind of swapping notebooks. I found it interesting that in I think that there are two people at least mentioned that when they're working in a studio, like one person is taking notes, like with a computer, like when they have a computer, so that that person's in charge of it, but also like everyone's taking notes on their notebook, like physically. Um, I guess like the reason for this is probably like you don't want everyone to go back to the computer and um, be in their zone, so that it's like at least one person is like in charge of like
Yeah.
recording, yeah, like registering. But also you keep like this embodied practice. The other thing I thought was like a bit, maybe it's a little bit unrelated, but also maybe related. I don't know if you're like familiar with like Muto notation from Hijikata. That's in Hijikata. He left a lot of artifacts, and there's a archive in Japan. Um, so a lot of people visit there. People interested in Buto, they go through his notes. But
Mm.
if I understand correctly, what he left is like scrapbooks that he collected articles and stuff from like books, magazines, and also a lot of notation that was created by himself, but he told his apprentices and they were taking notes.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I probably there are some notes from himself, but I think there's a lot more material from his apprentices,
Mm.
which I found it interesting because this kind of like shared notebook, collective notebook,
Mhm.
there is something there. I don't know if I want to recreate it online or is it, yeah, I don't know, but there is a potential for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that just makes me think of also very different, that even in the note taking or note sharing collective online experience, you could have different degrees of that. Like, you could be the note taker, you could be the one that is dictating as well, if it would be happening live, or depending if you're registering voice or like writing, right? Or also just the role of I mean, it's something that we, yeah, rely on in what is it called, in just like court matters, where you have the stenographer typing objectively, right? So in a way of like what is registering and what is witnessing, um, and how much of all of that is basically a creation act already,
Mm,
which
that
which
reminds
might
me of
be informed. Yeah. No,
if
go.
audio description, because one of them who's working with accessibility, she told me that, like there are like different approaches to audio description. It can be like objective. It can be more like coming from the intention of the actors or dancers. So that's I just related to what you just said about note taking, because it can be objective, subjective, or somehow like we can decide on the kind of coding method.
Mm. Mm, I don't know. Are you still looking for people to interview?
Um, I mean, yes and no. Like if, I mean, I would say yes. Like I'm not like eagerly like looking, but some people like responded late, or then I would definitely do it. Also, like if anyone has like particular practice that's like interesting for me to interview, it's really vague, but yeah, then I would definitely do it, do an interview.
Do you have like a bit more precise idea what would be that more special practice? Is that because, for instance, I don't know if you have interviewed Elsa Artman?
Um,
No.
no.
So, well, it's now a former collective called Artman and Duvoisin, but now it's Sanfte Arbeit. I will write the name,
Ah,
Elsa.
yeah,
Yeah,
you said that before.
just
Ah, yeah.
because I think what's very particular with their work is that the text is a huge part of the production. Like they use a lot of text in their works, right? So I assume that note taking there is very different, right? Because note taking is already how to say merged with creating the text and making it and then performing it or making it ready for performance or um, merging what goes into notes for the text with how something will be performed or yeah, so forth. But maybe it could be interesting, yeah. But you also find them on Instagram, I think. But wait, I will just. So you got the name right?
Yeah.
Hartmann and who was? But now I think it's just Ilse Hartmann. Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Oh, yeah. Thanks. Wait. No, I can't find.
Now it's only Elsa Hartmann. Yeah. So they have just changed the name recently. So you find that name on Instagram if you have
Okay.
it. If not, I can also send you contact.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can find
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, but it sounds very. I also wanted to say the processing that you sent, right?
What was that?
The
Ah, yeah, the sketch.
sketch. Yeah,
Yeah.
I find that what I find really interesting is that it always goes back to its form.
Yeah, because you said about movement, so I was like, hey,
Yeah.
how can I make it move? So that's how it's moving now.
But what made me realize is, I mean, I find it interesting. And then just playing with the shape, I thought, what would actually change its shape? Right.
Hmm.
Is it the amount of references you put in, or is it like what changes that body? That would be one.
Hmm.
And then because it was really nice, I really tried to fuck it up. So I was like moving everything as much across as possible to see just like, oh, does it always go back into the same place, right? Because I didn't also check the code.
Yeah.
Also, like I was like, where could that be? Then I thought it would be interesting if you actually do the crossing because of some interest to bring different fields together, that then as it travels back, maybe the um the fertilization, I don't know how to call it. So the fact as they are going back onto their own spot, as they cross, that something else can be revealed as the friction between
Mm,
the two fields. And it's either really silly proposals, like let's say that one limb contains artists that do similar work than you would like to do. Others is like whatever books, blah, blah, blah. And maybe as they cross, you just have hashtags mixed up, that bring up new phrases.
mm,
Because I think sometimes just this very surrealist mixing of the actual terms that you deal with can bring a lot of like more intuitive association based method that I would dare to guess a lot of dance artists also work with.
yeah, yeah, kind of serendipity or um, and I was thinking, you mentioned what's this note taking app? Infranodus.
Yeah,
I tried it. I
yeah.
hated it so much.
Why? Tell me why. Tell me why.
Because I think I have specific like visual like understanding of things, like ideas. Like I have like mind map, like I tend to create mind map inside myself somehow. So it really like clashes with this, my mental like model and what's there, and then just it doesn't make sense to me. But I was thinking like if I have a lot of data that I could somehow make some kind of similar map and then maybe correlate this to this like blobby body could be interesting. Um,
No, I'm really glad you say that because I also, I mean, I basically stopped using it for that matter. And I think I know the purposes of why it was created and why it, and maybe it exactly has this problem of trying to be too general and too abstract so that it can serve multiple purposes, but it stays super in the air and dry somehow. And yeah, I was also thinking if at least this mapping is occurring in some particular settings that either you decide which one it is, or, like if it's a
mm.
particular limbless body, it would be really interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
But I can see that, for some people, for some purposes, it's really powerful tool. It's just like for me, randomly taking notes or putting some data doesn't work for me. But then like this really like this me to this idea of like I should start collecting data that I can enter to this platform so that I can have good idea of what it is, what is it about. Because if I'm just thinking like, okay, what kind of data I want, is it image or is it text, is it video, and is it like about mapping with a hashtag and so on, like I think I really need the data to work with,
Yeah.
like to start with.
Yeah.
So give me your notes. But actually, like this is something I have to start doing. Like, what are the sources? Actually, a friend of mine in Japan, he offered me some like reports from the workshop he's doing, because it's somehow like he's having like public funding and he has to report it, so it's there. So yeah, he said like if I want to use it, just let him know so that
Mm.
yeah, we can that's the person who asked me if I want to to be a kind of journalist about his
Mm.
performance like creation process, which I started to feel like maybe that's a bit too much. But in looking into his reports or notes to understand what can be input in the platform, that's like interesting part of it. But I think like being a journalist, being yeah, like to look into investigate their process, that I feel a little bit too much and like too specific. But still, yeah, I think it's interesting to like ask around if you want to share those as
Yeah.
a first data set, and then like what else can I get? Because for example, I randomly take some quotes from like Buto artists and I just put it in there, and actually it is just randomly showing it, but I kind of like it as
Mm.
a example data. I don't know how many like quotes you can use from like existing like book or this like website, because I think if I have 100 quotes from this website, that's a bit problematic, right? If I have like two or three, probably it's okay, but um,
I mean, it depends if you credit it for sure, but you can
yeah,
find other books as well. Yeah. I mean,
exactly. So
which is another really interesting thing that maybe already gives you some data to work with. What are the most quoted books or actually quotes in the dance world? I find that very interesting because then you get to see what they're reading, what the typical dance artist library is. I'd be very interested in that. I mean, we were kind of starting to work with that on one project with Valerie, but
okay. Well, I can start with this. I have this
yeah,
that
yeah,
Jorge,
yeah.
Jorge
Exactly,
gave me.
exactly. Yeah.
But
Um,
I think what's nice with this book is like it's like everything is short, right? Or like a paragraph.
yeah,
So it's easy to use it as a quote, I think.
yeah.
But then like the report I received from a friend of mine, that's something it's hard to just pick sentence to use it because it doesn't really make sense as a sentence. I mean, okay, it's not about making sense or not, but
Yeah,
still it has to have something that is interesting from this one
yeah,
sentence. Or does
but that's a good question. What do you expect will be interesting from the notes? Because I don't know if I now think of it, I'm more, I don't know, I'm more, let's say, prone or sensitive to writing. So I can write in a very cryptic or what would be considered more poetic manner, or I can be very analytical. That is not that interesting, but it's me explaining to myself how I think something, what's an interesting principle of construction, let's say. So that's why I'm trying to say that these reports could equally be interesting depending on which part, but they were meant to prove, right, how funds were used most of the time, which I find also really incredible that basically, I don't know, EU projects boost documentation of dance, not even directly because they would want to. I know that's probably one of the EU supported project as well, but because they need, the bureaucracy to be completely filled. And so everybody during all the take care and take heart residencies had to write reports like crazy, which I was reading, by the way. The pre and after. I've never read the after. That would be interesting. Uh, so I guess I read the pre, what their intentions are. Whoever is reading the after, and I guess you're interested in the middle.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what's pre and after? Like
So
for
when you write what your intentions, what you intend to do,
the proposal.
proposal, basically,
Yeah.
yeah. If you don't have a carte blanche, then it's like you have to somehow specify what your interest is, what you will be working on, or you have to specify something. And then after, you needed to say how it went, how close to the expected it was, and so on. So the notes come in handy before, as I'm making the proposal, and before, as I'm making the report, right? In these two in-between stages. I think so, yeah. And to be honest, I actually used my notes, my like creative notes, to make a proposal because I was really reflecting. I'm like, well, I'm not just writing a report for you, then I'll make it useful for myself. I'll try to figure out what's a takeaway thing of this
Mm.
process. What did I do? I mean, I'm sure many people did, yeah. Um, but yeah, maybe these reports are not that off. They're of course well polished, right? You don't get the rawness of someone's thinking or not thinking. It's very legible.
Right.
Um,
But this is also like the idea we talked before, right? Like what if I make a fake open call that, people have to somehow write it in a specific form, which I think it might be a practical idea, but people will hate it. And I will hate it too.
I mean, if you want to make it also, how about making a call to imagine what dance will be like in next 10 years, although that's not far enough into the future to,
Yeah,
I think,
50,
anticipate
50
something new.
years.
But to create fake notes, I
Hmm.
think that's extremely difficult. If as a project you ask people to create fake notes and contribute them, right? It's a bit like, I'm sorry, I have to go back to court. I think if you are in a weird, difficult situation and you need to prove what was going on in a certain time, if you have a log or like almost like a journal, that I believe actually in some courts counts as evidence because it's really hard to falsify it. It's very hard to, yeah. Well, not impossible, clearly, but um yeah, just make a call for fake notes. Then I think whoever takes that seriously, some people will give you what we think notes are, and most probably they
Hmm.
are that, so it will be quite correct. And then also there will be some very honest proposals, because maybe also some people with the under the pretense that it's fake, they will also just share their notes. I don't know.
True. And we can't verify really if it's real or not.
No, or you make I don't know, that can be part of a workshop if you organize something where you ask people to take notes knowing that they will be shared, or but anonymously, of course, or because asking to create fake notes is not straightforward to what is happening there. Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Right. I mean, then what's the problem if I just ask for notes?
If
But
you
what's the, yeah, I can do the call, but
you
what do
sh
they get? What do I select the best note? Most quoted note.
now
Oh,
you just make it floated, the note of the day.
note of the day. Note of the day.
Yeah.
NOTD. But I'm really curious, like what you said about this most quoted dance, I don't know, like literature or dance reference. And
Just go to Dance Scholars PhD. That's one thing. And
okay,
then that's another thing. You can see it on at the institution's sites. I don't know. They're not really web pages of artists are not really in anymore. So I guess that's only on Instagram, probably. People have more likely Instagram than anything else. Proposals. That's where you can see a lot of quoting. Yeah.
oh, right. Interesting. Yeah, I really need a, do I really want to get proposals? I mean, like what you did, like
Yeah.
to ask for institution or proposals. Oh, well, this is recording, right? Because
Doesn't have to be.
yeah, actually, I have no, I wouldn't say this loud, but yeah, but if I don't use it, maybe I can just look into the database that I have access to. Maybe I'll 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 check something, but I wouldn't. But this is okay. So there are two things. Like I want to do like research, but also I need like something that I can also display on the platform, right? I can, so it's like public domain notes. What are the public domain? Well, it doesn't have to be public domain. It can be like attributed, like this licensed Creative Commons
Mm.
note, dance note.
No, but you have it. I mean, first notes in the dance world are basically scores, the visual scores.
Hmm.
People made notes, right? It's like first I wanna, I don't know, remember or like fix who goes where or what the steps are or how the body moves, whether it's Laban or something. Maybe that sounds too formal, but I'm, you know, those came out just because they're formal and they're legible enough that people actually make whatever Laban notation analysis course. So it's useful. So it's basically can be transmitted. And that's the whole point of, in a way, notes, that something can be transmitted. And if it's not a knowledge or like a knowledge about the method, then it's maybe motivation, inspiration, and so on, references. So it's really a question of what the notes will be sharing finally, right?
Mm.
What is the know? Is it know how, know what, or no?
Can you like suggest me like a one or two? I mean, okay, so Laban is one thing. Where should I look for Laban notation?
Oh,
Um,
internet is full of it, but Laban Dance Center in London uh, is a proper like institution dedicated to that. But then there's loads of material. You will immediately just under images find,
hmm.
yeah. Mm. And
What are
then
the other, yeah, major notations?
well, basically that's a big one. And then there's
Yeah.
like days of there's some early, what are they, 18th century, I guess, like basically wait, let me find this. Hmm. Yeah, one of the first dance notations. Um, when is this? Yeah, Pierre Bourchon is already like a dance notation system for Baroque dance, and that's like 17th century. And then
Okay.
if you also just go on Wikipedia under dance notation, you will have there that, and then as you click on different ones, you will find it. Yeah.
Right. Pierre Rochon. Okay. Yeah.
There is mm, I mean nowadays, yeah, I think it's also an interesting question why that's not interesting anymore to learn a certain dance notation. Of course, because you transmit things with video. Um, but there's yeah, one of the last, because I haven't maybe also followed the field, so I'm saying the one I'm aware of that actually created his own notation is Frey Faust. I will. Um, he's a founder of a method called Axis Syllabus,
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and he was developing his, I think, notation, maybe also based on rhythm. I don't know. Maybe you check it out if there's something just to have more of a collection. But there is a dance scholar, also choreographer, Foteini. I want to say Papadopoulos, but I don't think so. I think it's just a name that comes to my mind, but of Greek origin, based in Düsseldorf, that did few things on dance notation, on Laban notation, on maybe even note taking. I'm not sure. But if you write, this is the first name, Foteini, and Düsseldorf, you will for sure find her name. Yeah, no, Papadopoulou. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if then she has more of a web page or something, but yeah, there might be
Well,
interest.
she
Yeah,
presented at Freiron.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wait, so was, oh yeah, I see some documentation from Freiron that she's like handing out some kind of notation. Okay. Well, yeah, I was a bit distracted at one point because what if I just search for like dance in Google Scholar to see like what's cited? And I was so disappointed that the first article that showed up is called Everybody Dance Now. And that's like a machine learning thing that, trained, no, how does it work? Oh, so you take a picture of yourself and it will generate like you as if you are doing like dance moves. It's really like it it's like a really like a tech demo of AI, and I really hate like deep fake kind of thing that
Yeah.
makes you a dancer, and I'm like, oh, it's like I don't know, it's just so lame. Like it's okay, you're a dancing specific type of dance, but anyways.
But that's the first thing if you write it into Google Scholar. Wow.
Yeah, if I search for dance, maybe it's like optimized for to my preference because I search for like technical, like technological
Yeah, it is because I
stuff.
get something else in.
Yeah, okay, that's really
Yeah.
okay. So when I search here, it will be biased a lot. That's good to know. Is
Yeah.
it?
But if
Hmm.
I, but this is in, but that's in the title. So it most likely will not be dance. The word dance will most likely not be in the
It's
article.
true. True.
The first thing I get is the dance language controversy, and it's a quarterly review of biology, and it's about the bees and bee behavior. Then I have dance related injury, dance in anthropological perspective, the politics and poetics of dance. So, um, yeah. But if you go into the journal of dance or something like that, and you see what are the most quoted there, but I mean, it's not that much different than from any, I would say, uh, whatever humanist discipline in that sense, except that the dance authors are then like always one and the same, and you have three most popular philosophers, and that's it.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I will go through the proposals to see what's going on there. I hope people have references because when I write proposals, I don't think I have a lot of references.
Mm.
No, not always.
I think it's also a specific way of being taught how to write a proposal, which is have a sort of a theoretical framework in the sense of like what discourse are you rooting your proposal in, right?
This is actually very interesting. Like people organizing this kind of like teaching how to write proposals, or also like organizing like there's like a kind of salon for like writing, right? That could be an interesting place to reach out if I can interview them.
Mm. Also check the, what is it called? What's the name? It's in the NFV region, and they're sort of a hub for all kinds of like they collect all the calls. They can give you like a counseling session or something.
Oh yeah.
You know it, right? NFV. What is it? Is it Landestanzbüro? Yeah. Is it Landestanzbüro? I'm writing,
I
I'm
don't
putting it.
know.
Um,
Landesbüro Tanz.
yeah, then Landesbüro Tanz. Tanzbüro. Yeah. Um, mm, yeah, they have kind of different sections of engagement to help with different things. And some are also like writing proposals or some
Okay, yeah.
financial. section and so on. So
Ah ja, they have Tanzsprechstunde.
yeah, yeah, but because that's also available to take, and then you can also just like have I think it's like half an hour they give you, and you can talk to them who else to reach out to concerning your specific interest. Yeah.
I might just ask them, like I might just do the Sprechstunde. Or
Yeah, yeah, of course.
I have this like idea as well. Like, so I will definitely ask them if I can talk to them as a Sprechstunde to kind of brainstorm. 15 minutes is really short though. But then I thought, like, what if I do a Sprechstunde? Like I offer Sprechstunde to people, but who wants to talk to me? I don't know. But um, like open office hour thing. I always wanted to do it. But then like the question is like who wants to talk to me? But it depends on where I send out the information, I guess.
Depends who it reaches and also what you're offering. And if you don't say what you're offering, people are going to assume based on what they're going to read about you. So I bet they're going to be asking you about more the technological questions of how to develop things.
I have this problem with processing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that could be also interesting. But yeah, if you know any of this kind of Sprechstunde for dance, anything that could be interesting to reach out. I know there's one in Montreal,
Hmm.
Studio 303. They have this. I hope they're still doing it.
What is it called? Studio 32?
Studio 303.
303. Okay.
Actually, a friend of mine is on the top page. It's kind of funny. Mm.
Um,
It's also an interesting place because it's like community based. They have like reading clubs, tax. That's also interesting what they're doing. But they should have like something about like grant writing.
yeah, yeah.
Anyways, I know some people there, so I would probably reach out to them.
Wait, I just got reminded of another thing that might be interested. Let me see. Hmm. Yeah, maybe not. So it's a initiative started in Brussels, but I don't think it will be anything about, no, probably not. Anyway, I can still mention the initiative because I think it's very interesting. And since it's recorded, maybe some people will hear about it. It's a collective in Brussels of I think 3 people or now maybe more who monthly organize a session with a local artist, and they propose a question. They come up with a question, whether it's based on what's happening right now or whatever, what is happening in the scene, something. It can be very like, abstract or much more concrete. And then they propose to an artist, they select them and say, hey, could you present your work through this question? And some of it had to do with, well, I chose, of course, because I was part of it, to look at what they proposed, which was body writing, I think. It was literacy, pedagogy, and so on. And basically, body knowledge. What is body knowledge? Then there's also some on memory. I'm just trying to see if there are topics that are related to also the note taking, but you can check it out here. But I'm not sure if it's directly useful. Yeah. But I wanted to say, if there is a way, I would be interested in like either that, of course, you present, for sure, you're always welcome to join Take More Care, but maybe also to make space in the time of Take More Care to have like, I don't know, maybe in every session, which is only once a month, but like that part of it, you propose something for all the participants, because then you have some people gathered, right? Or if you don't join, that we can do it for you or anything like that. Or if it's like, you know, offering the platform to people who come, or I don't know, or running our own notes of Take More Care through the platform, because we're notes on that, but it's kind of meta notes, of course, because it's about multiple processes. But it's basically interesting because I'm like, we have gathered a lot of notes now through 2 years, which we always wanted to go through to make a kind of a report. Then last year we were too busy and we didn't, but I thought that would be an interesting reflection for people who have joined to just even go, hey, these were the topics, these were the issues, these were the most common references, or, you know, just get us kind of a sense of what has been shared. Yeah, so if in any way Take More Care can also support you, let us know. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like in any case, like I have to start some kind of like community management kind of task to run, like if I really want to run this platform.
Yeah.
In a way, I'm doing it already, but like by talking to people and catching up with people, that's like really a good start. And I think I'm the right track in that way. And I haven't started any like Discord server, which is also a good thing that, you know, I might start like, you know, I should start like newsletter or something, but I don't know. I feel I'm not good with like keeping up with something. But yeah, something like I don't want to hijack Take More Care, but something to do with Take More Care together or do it on my own, but I think it's like something that we have shared vision and
Yeah.
could do together. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Because there has to be like human involved, not Discord server
Yeah.
or Slack server, Slack channel, whatever. It's yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Recording finished. No, I'm joking.
I can finish it now. But then I say what for this is going to be uploaded. So thanks for watching and please subscribe. Do you have a YouTube channel?
No, I don't.
Okay, you missed the opportunity to have new
Damn it.
subscribers.
We'll start now.
Okay.
Yeah.